daily drugstore shopping here in the Oh, Wet n Wild, I was just looking for the new your brand new eyeshadow palette.
There's so much drama going on right now. Hey, what is up all my social climbing friends? It's Dustin and I'm back with another video, and yes, of course, it's about James Charles. For those of you that have not been on Twitter the past day or so, you are definitely in for a treat. As you guys know, around December of last year, James Charles released his Morphe palette that was a rainbow palette that a lot of people are saying was a revision of the Morphe 35B palette. James Charles has touted this as being his palette that he formulated and designed, that he took 2 years to make, and well, James Charles is kind of upset because Wet n Wild Beauty actually tweeted a picture yesterday that has him all in his feelings and upset. So if you're here for that, stay tuned to this video. Quickly, before we jump in, I just want to say if you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. My name's Dustin. YouTube's been playing me with my subscribers lately, and I just want to let you know that if you're subscribed to my channel, I love you, and just make sure that you're still subscribed. So let's just jump right into this. So all of this started yesterday when Wet n Wild Beauty tweeted out and said, first look at our new 40 palette, available exclusively at RuPaul's DragCon NYC, coming to wetnwildbeauty.com fall 2019. Hashtag Wet n Wild Beauty, hashtag Wet n Wild 40 palette, hashtag DragCon, hashtag DragCon NYC. And it didn't take much longer after that until James Charles actually started tweeting about this. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see that it definitely does resemble the James Charles Morphe palette. I'm just going to say that now, and I'll get more into what I think about that later in this commentary. But for now, let's get into what James Charles had to say. James started by quote tweeting Wet n Wild Beauty and said, "That's crazy. Your new palette looks extremely familiar." Then a couple moments later, he tweeted out and said, "There are only so many colors you can put into an eyeshadow palette, and I'm not claiming to own specific colors. But when you copy the exact shades and layout from my palette without even trying to hide it, clown face emoji." And here's where things really kicked it up a notch. In reply to Wet n Wild Beauty, someone tweeted back and said, "Being affordable doesn't mean you can steal other people's ideas, especially without consent, and profit off them. You may think you're clever with this right now, but wait until you get sued." To which Wet n Wild Beauty replied and said, "The James Charles X Morphe palette was purchased by Morphe from Jiaxing Hushing Cosmetics." To which James quickly replied and said, "You're tweeting information out of context to start drama. This is beyond unprofessional. Jiaxing Hushing is the manufacturer that produces my palette, which I designed and formulated myself. Every company has a manufacturer they buy their stock from, including you." James then went on to say, "I'm so confused. I really like a lot of their products. They're bringing great formulas at a drugstore price. This is so disappointing." It didn't take very long after all of this for James Charles to start liking shady tweets about Wet n Wild Beauty. Here's some of the tweets that he actually liked. "At least they could have swapped a few shades around. Clown face emoji, legit copy and paste. Bet you that pigmentation and blend doesn't compare though. Unleash your inner lawsuit, sister. This is absolutely not okay. Delete this or my lawyer will be in contact immediately. Unleash your inner lawsuit has joined the chat. They made the middle row smaller and thought no one will know. Now I just want to take a second and say that James Charles has no way to actually sue Wet n Wild Beauty for duping this. Dupes are a thing. There's many different brands like Makeup Revolution that dupe all kinds of palettes. It would actually have to be Morphe that would take legal action against Wet n Wild Beauty, but I just honestly don't think that they'll do that. But if this wasn't enough, Wet n Wild Beauty started clapping back and liking tweets as well. When I tell you that Wet n Wild Beauty was reminding me of Wendy's Twitter yesterday, I'm not joking. In reply to someone that I didn't get a screenshot of, Wet n Wild Beauty replied back and said, "Well, we certainly didn't copy the price." Someone else said, "This looks exactly like the James Charles palette. Good for those who don't support him though." And Wet n Wild replied, "Hashtag affordable beauty is us." Another person tweeted at Wet n Wild and said, "Drugstore equal copycat. James palette is affordable, so I don't know what y'all speaking about, LOL." Wet n Wild Beauty replied and said, "I believe it's called a dupe." Wet n Wild had also tweeted out 40 years in the beauty industry, and then somebody tweeted back to them and said 40 years of stealing palettes from different people. And Wet n Wild replied and said, "We're a drugstore brand, Sierra. As such, we develop dupes alongside our own product." This entire exchange was so freaking funny to me. Like, this is actually what I live for, this type of stuff right here, because one, James Charles does not own the rainbow, nor does anybody anybody else for that matter. These beauty influencers did not create the rainbow. They did not create color. They did not create the full spectrum of colors. Literally all they do is add like shimmers to them and some of them and add them into palettes. But here are some of my favorite tweets that Wet n Wild Beauty like. Literally no one owns the rainbow. LMAO. There's so many palettes that came similar before James. LMAO. I'ma snatch it and at a cheaper price. Let's break it down for the delusional. James Charles stands in here. James can't sue Wet n Wild because James didn't create his palette with Morphe. He was likely given samples of different palettes from the manufacturer Morphe uses and he chose one. End of story. Get over it. It's called a dupe, people. Many makeup companies do this. Now, much like I just said, Makeup Revolution is known for duping things. They have whole entire palettes. Then we even have Copycat Beauty by the Catch Me Outside girl who literally copies every single thing from MAC to Anastasia Beverly Hills to all these different big brands in the beauty industry, and they haven't even got a lawsuit yet. Another thing that would indicate to me that there is not going to be a lawsuit is the other day I actually seen a copy of the Jeffree Star X Morphe palette that just came out, and you haven't seen Jeffree all over social media blasting it to his millions of followers for people to see and go buy it, and they copied Jeffree's whole name. Like, what? I just feel like James has got his panties in a wad up over this, and it's really honestly not that serious. He even made a video about a copycat James palette. That's what you see in the background of this video. It's not like Wet n Wild actually went out here and they copied him and put his name on a palette. They actually have a palette that is quite similar to his. It is very similar in the layout and the colors, I might add. But at the end of the day, people are looking for affordability. People are looking for products that they like, that they can afford to use. And not everyone wants to support James. Is it a little bit shady that Wet n Wild did this? Maybe just a little bit, especially with the replies and things that they were putting out. But there's literally all kinds of dupe videos on the internet, especially here on YouTube. If you're into makeup, I know that you've probably watched a dupe video or two where you can find another affordable color that's very similar to a color in a palette that you may not be able to afford or you don't want to spend money on. And in my opinion, this is literally no different than that. James Charles just gave free press to a company that has been around for so long, that is so well known, and it's literally available everywhere here in America. If you're from America, you probably know what Wet n Wild Beauty is. I don't think that James should have got this upset about it. Yeah, I understand that he took his time to make this palette, but at the end of the day, this is a rainbow palette. It's been done so many different times by so many different companies. It's literally the rainbow. I think that everybody that is like really into makeup, or if they like really vibrant, bright colors, they have a rainbow palette just like this. I understand James being maybe a little bit upset because it does look like they copied like his setup and the way that the palette is laid out, but at the end of the day, there's nothing, in my opinion, that I think he or Morphe could do. Although they're very, very similar palettes, they're also very, very unique in their own way. James's palette has those very big pans in the middle, and in my opinion, this palette is more like the Morphe 35B palette that James's palette allegedly replaced. Also, all of that aside, allegedly, James Charles has a dip brow product coming out with Morphe. We've seen receipts on the internet. We don't really know if this is true, so it's completely alleged. So Morphe is known for duping other brands, because you would know that Anastasia Beverly Hills has a dip brow product by that same name. So I don't really understand why James Charles is upset, because Morphe is known for being like kind of like a dupe brand anyway. So for another brand to dupe his product with Morphe, it just seems like an industry standard at this point. If one brand can copy another brand, then another brand can copy another brand. I mean, James Charles is not that special that nobody can copy his product. Like, it doesn't make sense at all to me why he would think that he has to be the exclusion, he has to be the exception, he has to be the golden boy that nobody can copy. Also, while I'm at it, Morphe took a moment to throw shade, it seems, in my opinion. James commented on this post that they posted yesterday of his palette saying, "I gasm much? We can't look away. Hashtag MorpheX James Charles. Hashtag James Charles palette. Hashtag the one and only." But you guys, I really want to know how you all think about this. What do you think about James being upset by this? Do you think that he's like right in being upset because he took time to actually pick out these colors and put the rainbow into this palette? Or do you think that it's just something that he needs to leave alone and that he doesn't need to address? Because he did go on to say on Twitter that he would be addressing this maybe in a video, probably a Snapchat rant. Knowing James, he will probably go out and buy buy this palette and compare it to his palette in a video just for attention, clicks, and clout. And that's perfectly fine if he wants to give Wet n Wild Beauty more free press. More power to him. I think that it's just going to upset more people in the long run. And will you guys be buying this palette? I know that a lot of you guys were tweeting back saying that you did not support James, but you actually love the colors in his palette. So will you guys be buying this with your hard-earned money? I know that I also tweeted out that I may be doing a giveaway when this palette comes out. I just need to know a date because reasons. But you guys, as always, I hope you all have an amazing day. Let me know what you think down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, guys.